I got 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay.
Keeping those guys and then buying, like trading for those guys, right?
Yeah,
You
I
buy
don't
them
know when you're.
or sell it, you know?
All right, we're gonna call that clock's a little bit off. It is 10 o'clock, and we're gonna call Courts and Public Safety Committee to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Morse?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here. With that, we'll entertain approval of minutes from July 11th.
I'll make that motion, Hardy. Support, Erickson.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Any changes to the agenda? I'll answer my own question. We have one. We will not have a life EMS report. The person scheduled to report is not well, so we'll postpone that until the next available opportunity. Any other changes? That, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Mr. Erickson,
I'll second, Hardy.
support Harden. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Good. Any public comment? Thank you for joining us this morning. Anybody want to speak your piece? We'll have another opportunity at the end. All right, they're quiet for now. Administrator Byron, Indigent Defense Managed Assigned Council Administrator Independent Contractor Agreement. Wow, that one needs an acronym.
Must have been written by an attorney.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a good thing you went to Golden.
Exactly.
No offense, Your Honor.
We currently have an indigent defense, agreement with our, independent contractor, which is, Karen Moore. And she has informed me that there are 2 of the compliance standards that are not included in that current contract. So she's asking that the board, approve the contract that is in the packet, which includes those standards, and then the other one will be terminated.
The dollar amounts, payments, is that all the same?
The COLA went up, she said, 5% because of those 2 extra standards and they're having to do more work. But, yes, that's the increase for that particular agreement.
Mr. Beggs,
Yes.
I would be in favor of approving this, and having been here when we went with Dr. Moore for our indigent defense and the multiple counties that she has, I think that she provides a very, very good service to us at a reasonable rate with everything that takes place with us. She's in Lansing on a regular basis and knows the people in Lansing and communicates well for us and the other counties.
I agree. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, any department head reports? Anything from anybody? Sure.
Good morning, everyone.
All right.
Morning, Chair.
We've got 52 in jail right now. Our correction staff, but we had interviews this week, so we're still working on filling that one remaining vacant spot. So we're working on that as we speak. We had a busy week here on the road, and I need to give a lot of credit to the gentlemen that are here in the back row, to Ryan and Troy, for our first, and we'll say annual, National Night Out.
National Night
Yeah,
Out.
it was a huge success. We had hundreds and hundreds of people there, kids of all ages, and it went over very, very well. It was a nice response. We had all public services there, emergency services. Really, really nice event. A lot of people attended. We went through like 760 hot dogs, a lot of popcorn, a lot of snow cones. Went really, really well. We're glad to see a couple of you guys there too that you could attend. So the road patrols continued on busy. We are fully staffed right now in road patrol. Our Jeremy Schaefer's just finishing up his turn as a FTO. So he'll be assigned out on patrol here in August. Donnie Hansen's gonna go to the Detective Bureau as soon as that happens. So we got some changes coming up real soon too. Any questions for me? Sir?
I think there was a missed opportunity on a couple guys for the dunk tank that are reserves, but also on the commission board here.
Yep, you're right.
Just some feedback for next year.
Right, so
I
and
had
that's
my
good
granddaughter,
feedback.
so I was exempt.
That is good feedback for
Yes.
next year, because we hope to have it bigger and better next year, so, yeah, good idea.
You'll
And
attract
I
a lot
will
more
admit
people.
that, that was really well set up. I mean, there was a lot of participation. I think that everybody that came really enjoyed it.
In full credit, Ryan and Troy and Mike Phillips put in a lot of work on it. I can't take any credit for it, it was really all those guys planning and scheming, so they did a nice job on it.
It was a nice event.
It was awesome.
Absolutely.
Tim,
Full parking lot.
Tim, can we get into another discussion, you know, with the sheriff? See if there was, yesterday, Sheriff Maston, Dr. Williams, and Tracy and I met with Michigan State, and we met with, where's Amy from?
Michigan Association of Counties.
From MAC, about the opiate, you know, settlement and going forward. And the sheriff is a very valuable person on that board, you know, and it's actually an informal committee. And we are moving forward with setting up a committee. And it's the next step that we have to do, and then we have to do a survey with it. Sheriff, any comments from you about the meeting yesterday as we go forward with this?
I think it was a productive meeting. I think it was understood by yourself and myself that we hope not to over-administrate this thing and to get it moving in a productive manner so we can see some change. There's a possibility for change in the near future. We don't want to have too many committees on and beat this thing to death with so that was really that was explained very well to the people that were assisting from MAC, I think.
Yeah,
And,
MAC and MSU.
But yeah, we've got some ideas to move forward to use those funds in a productive manner to really help our at-risk society.
And one thing that, for me, that was very obvious, you all know that I sit on the West Michigan Community Mental Health Board, but Dr. Williams was very valuable with the input that she has. Sheriff?
She's very well spoken and very knowledgeable.
And this would be impossible for us to go alone on this. And I want the other board members to know that unless there's a strong objection, we are going to move forward with the next steps in forming a committee, and then a formal committee, and then doing the surveys that we have to do. But sure, thank you for taking time on being there yesterday.
Absolutely.
So are you referring to when you said administrative costs, or it was you, I think, said administrative costs, is the fear too much overhead costs? Like that's I think that was you, Sheriff. Is that what you're saying, referring to?
My fear was that we're just, I hate sitting in meetings after meetings after meetings and not getting anything done.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we sit in those same meetings and then we'll change venue to a different meeting and we meet the same people. And we're still not getting a hell of a lot done. And that's not, I'm a little fed up with that. You know, I'm ready to, if there's some funds available and if there is a good plan to help these at-risk people,
Get the work done.
let's not overthink it. Let's get to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Phil, with the mandates that come down from the state on this, because it's a multi-billion-dollar national settlement. But with the mandates that are coming down from this, you know, we don't want to get caught up in all of the guidelines may appear simple for the big counties, Ann Arbor's, the Wayne counties, the Monroe counties, and all of those counties. But when you get into this rural area, and that was what the sheriff and I discussed with the two people yesterday, you know, and Dr. Williams was the same way, you know, we don't have the staff to assign somebody full-time to do all of this thing. There was a little bit of a discussion yesterday that, as we move forward, because we are in the same judicial districts with Mason County, we may want to partner with Mason County on some of these things. They're going in a different direction right now. But we may work together with them on things, but streamline as much as allowable that we can, because we could have literally have a full-time employee trying to make this work for us, and that's not going to work for us.
It's not gonna work.
Thank you. Any other department heads? Mr. Maloney?
We're just talking. You couldn't see me. They knew I was here.
Good morning. Just a
Good
reminder
morning.
that in October we'll be doing our active assailant training for the courts and for our county employee. There'll be 2 days, 4 classes. One of them will be at CSB. We're gonna mix that up. So Mike and I decided to start cramming everybody in here and force them to and spread it out so it would help with the offices not being so stripped. And we are offering a little bit more of an advanced class, more hands-on stuff. But anybody can take any of them. And they all qualify for what the courts need to meet the requirements, so it doesn't matter, but anybody in the system can come to any of the classes. We're just taking the basic stuff we've done the last couple of years and then taking the next step on there to the rest of what normally is taught in that active assailant program. And then we will be incorporating our annual fire drill in there for the county building too. So working with our fire at one of those days. Other than that, thanks, Sheriff, for the kind words about National Night Out, but it really was way exceeded our expectations, amount of people that attended and all the partners that were there. But really, Under Sheriff Schiller was the brainchild behind it. Thank you for those of you who attended. And that's it.
All right. Any other department heads? All right. Public comment. Public comment. Not yet? All right. You gotta hold your peace a little longer. All right, hearing no public comment, we will adjourn for some public safety.
Just cue me when you're ready, Ms. Anderson.
Alrighty.
All right, I'm going to call to order the Personnel and Health and Human Services Committee. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here. Can I entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from the June 13 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And we have a second.
I'll second, Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Beggs and Mr. Hardy. Any conversation? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Any recommended changes to the agenda? All right, being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So move.
Support.
All right, thanks, Mr. Erickson. I think Mr. Beggs got it first, so we'll get him at the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Public comment time for Personnel and Health and Human Services Committee. All right, being none, we'll go to our first item on the agenda. We have Judge Middlebrook from District Court, his request for a full-time District Court room staff and increased hours for the magistrate.
Thank you. I want to thank you all very much for hearing me. I really appreciate it. I know I've sometimes kind of barged into your meetings based on my schedule, just kind of showing up during the public comment. But I really appreciate your times. I really appreciate Phil and Paul meeting with me and kind of giving me some advice and guidance in this. I really appreciate that. One of the things, obviously, I think you all got a packet. Did you all that? Okay. So I'll try to be brief. We have first of all, for the court reporter position, we have 3 proposals in here. One is obviously for a full-time court reporter. Before I get into why we need that, basically, if you look at our stats and our numbers are very, very close to what I have in Mason County. And in actuality, in some regards, it's 6 of one, half of the dozen of the other, in reference to the amount of court reporting that we do each week. I'm on the bench twice a week here in Oceana, Tuesday and Thursday. And in addition, I do a jury trial once a week in addition to that. So that's a Monday. So I'm on the record average of anywhere between 10 to 12 times a month, depending on how the days of each month fall. In Mason County, I'm probably on the record 1 to 2 more times a month, depending on how the days fall. We have a full-time dedicated court reporter in Mason County who takes care of not only court reporting duties, but also typing up transcripts. When you look at our numbers, I need a full-time court reporter here in Oceana because I'm on the record 15 hours, sometimes as much as 24 hours a week, depending on whether or not I have a jury trial that week. In addition, Ms. Facundo is on the record handling arraignments, misdemeanor pleas, et cetera, approximately, I believe it's 15, 17 hours a week, give or take. So we're talking between the two of us, 32 hours each week to 40 hours with my jury trial week, where we do not have a court reporter. So what does that mean? Well, our duties that we have split up with our staff is we have a traffic clerk, we have a civil clerk, and then we have a criminal clerk. And what we've been doing is to cover the reporting duties, we have these, each of these clerks cross-trained to record for our arraignments in our court hearings, which means that depending on the day, that person, whichever staff is drawn to record, is pulled away from their specific duties. That means that they have to play catch up the rest of the week to get caught up. Makes my court less efficient, makes the services we provide for Oceana County less efficient. There's less people if I'm on the bench on a Tuesday and Thursday, and if Ms. Facundo is doing arraignments on Tuesday and Thursday, that means 2 staff are gone, means sometimes we only have 1 person manning the phones, answering the desks, and incidentally doing their duties. And that is in a perfect scenario because as we know, people are entitled to take a vacation every once in a while. People get sick every once in a while. People have doctor's appointments once in a while. And so if we just have even 1 staff person out, that really causes a detrimental amount of time away from their duties. By having a dedicated court reporter, we will not only, each and every one of those staff will be able to concentrate on their specific duties. They won't be drawn off to do the court reporting duties, and we will be that much more efficient and that much better at just answering the phones, dealing with the people that come down to the window, and when people are not rushed and harried trying to get caught up in their duties, then they are that much more efficient with their duties. And incidentally, one of the things that we have had to deal with a lot, at least during my first 3 years here, is a lot of turnover. And I equate this turnover to the stress of having to be under that type of work conditions. We are very happy and fortunate right now, knock on wood. We've had 3 staff here that have celebrated their 1-year anniversary. So I'm very happy, but one of the things I have noticed, and I really appreciate it, that we've been able to have a part-time employee for the last 60 days during the summer. This employee has done a magnificent job. She's actually gotten trained to do some of the recording duties, so she has been able to take that burden off my civil clerk, my traffic clerk, and my criminal clerk. We actually have even gotten her cross-designated. She's probably about 50% trained in doing a criminal clerk job. She's about 25% trained on the civil and the traffic clerk job. And she's done a wonderful job for us. Her name is Pam Cruz. She's right now on her summer break from college. And I have noticed while she's been working here a significant decrease in the stress load and the workload with our staff. I think by having a dedicated court reporter, also when we're dealing with the attorneys and we're dealing with the people in court, there'll be continuity. You don't have a new person in there every time. And so it's what I have in Mason County, and frankly, I think we need to have it here in Oceana County, and that's why I am moving to add this position. I know I talked to Paul and Phil about it. I know Phil's position was more, this is something for that he would be in favor of for next year. I know Paul had indicated that if we had a person in mind for this job, that he would maybe be in favor of for it sooner. I see an opportunity here actually to have a nice transition. The lady I was talking about, Miss Cruz, she has just disclosed to us that she hasn't been able to get the classes that she wants to for her major in the upcoming year, and she is frankly upset about that. She's trying to look into different colleges to see if she can get in there to do her majors, but she has been unsuccessful. She goes to Saginaw Valley, but she's been looking into Baker College and Muskegon College, et cetera, to see if she can pick up these classes. It's one of the most frustrating things for those of you that, you know, go to college. You pay a lot of money, go to college, and then all of a sudden you find out you can't do anything towards your major. So she's considering right now if she has to take filler classes for next year. She's thinking that maybe she would like to work. We would love to have her because, as I said, she's about 50% trained in criminal, 25 in traffic, 25% trained to cover civil. We could transition her very nicely in, and by the way, she's got her credentials to do the court reporting work. She's been approved to do that and has been in my court for probably last 3 or 4 weeks. So she would be an excellent person if we could snag her before, it would only be for about a year, and then she'd be going back to school, but at least that would, she is a candidate we have. Anyway, the request is either for a full-time certified court reporter, and you can see that is the most expensive of the 3 options. The second option is a full-time courtroom clerk that would do courtroom duties, and then when they're not doing courtroom duties, would help and assist out with filling in and covering duties of the rest of the staff. That is a less expensive option. By the way, I think that, in my opinion, would be the fiscaliest, money-wise, best of the 3 options. It gives us not only coverage with the court reporter, but also fills in for when staff is on vacation or they're out sick, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, there's a contracted certified reporter, which is a third option, but that would be probably the most difficult to fill because, frankly, the availability of certified court reporters it's a difficult position to fill because there's just not, frankly, many of them, and that are available nowadays. It's tough to find those persons. The other and in the rest of the data shows basically these are our 2023 totals. You'll see where Mason County and Oceana County are practically the same. It flip-flops. Some Mason County is more, some Oceana County is more. One of the things I would point out to you that is a very interesting factor when you look at the 2023, and then when you compare them to 2024, the graphs are summer, very consistent. However, this is only the first part of our year, and as everybody knows, summer is a big time here in Oceana County, and our numbers jumped up a lot in July, August, etc., especially after the electric forest and that sort of thing. But one of the things I would point out to you that is directly related is our arraignments. Those all are required to be recorded. Oceana County has a significantly number more arraignments than Mason County. You may wonder why that is. And then we also had significantly numbered reopened cases. Reopened cases are when a warrant has been issued for arrest of a person. It goes into an unopened status, and then when they get arrested and they're brought before the court, the case is reopened. That's just our terminology for it. That's reflective of the great job the Sheriff's Department does here in Oceana, because they actually, when they have warrants for people, they actually go out and they track them down and they arrest them. The Sheriff's doing a great job in that regard in Oceana County. So that's one of the reasons why those figures are greater. Our arraignments is greater because we bring more misdemeanor charges here in Oceana County than in Mason County. You'll see new filings are greater in Mason County. The difference there is reflected in a lot more civil infractions are charged in Mason County, but civil infractions don't need to be recorded and go on the record. So that's one of the things that directly affects our need for a designated court reporter. In reference to the other request on our agenda is to increase Administrator Magistrate Facundo's hours from 35 to 40. I believe that this is absolutely an essential thing that needs to be done. Bottom line, at the end of the day, you have to, when you have when we're open for 40 hours and we're staffed for 40 hours and there needs to be an administrator supervising staff, everything runs much more efficiently and smoothly when you have that administrator there. They are available to answer questions when, even though the staff is totally trained up, there's always something that is novel or new. And having an experienced hand on deck like Magistrate Facundo to answer those questions, it just needs to be in place. Once again, I think staff morale will be greater also when you have, the supervisor, the person that you can lean on when you have a tough question or a tough situation, and unfortunately, I think from time to time, Ms. Facundo has basically worked those hours and not been reimbursed for them. But she does what she has to do to make sure that the job gets done. And so I think that needs to be expanded to 40 hours also. I know I'm only allotted 15 minutes and I don't want to go too long in my time. Is there any questions that you all have?
Mr. Walker.
Just a couple things. In looking at this, Your Honor, I see that Mason County Magistrate's Office and Oceana County have the same number of employees.
We have 5.5 in Mason County and 5 here.
We have a probation officer, and they don't.
That is correct. And the probation officer actually has totally different duties than the clerical.
Does that mean we don't need a probation officer?
No, we need a probation officer if we want to. What happens in Mason County is on Fridays, I act as a pseudo probation officer. And what I do in Mason County is I have my probation people return and they report directly to me. Now, I'm not going to do drug testing. I'm not going to do those type of things. I only have an hour or two slotted in my day to handle these people that are reporting. But I must say it's a less than ideal situation because all I do in Mason County is use the threat that I could put somebody in jail and kind of promise them. I don't have any follow through with that, whereas we have a probation officer here that can have the person drug tested, can go behind the scenes to make sure they're doing what they're doing, to make sure that they're properly. It's a true probation here in Oceana where, and I don't want the word to get out, but it's not really, we do the best we can in Mason County, and I'm going to be going to the Board of Commissioners in Mason County to see if I can get a proper probation officer. That's one of the reasons why I applied for a sobriety court here in Oceana, and I did not in Mason County because I just don't have the support, but I will be going to them to try and get a proper probation officer.
Thank you. And my other question is for the administrator. Our magistrate, is that a salary or an hourly position?
Salary.
That is a salary position. And normally salary positions are 40 hours a week, aren't they? So, that being said, if that needs to be adjusted, I think that's budget time that we need to do that. You know, because we're coming up, we will be having our budget workshops next month. You know, and looking at that. So, and spent a lot of years in law enforcement, not courts, but working with the court systems. Several courts, because I worked in 8 different counties in the state of Michigan. And I've seen all of them, and I understand the need, but I also respect the budget process.
Well, I understand you guys are, you need to be.
Mid-year when we're talking about putting something together that's pushing 6 figures, you know, we have to be careful what we jump into mid-year. So, Phil and Paul, you graciously jumped into the middle of this and spoke with the judge and anything. May I ask, Phil, what's your positions on these?
Yeah, my position hasn't changed, and the judge alluded to it already, that I'd like to take, I'd support the recorder position. I think that that's needed, but I think it's something to look at budget time. Same with the 35, 40-hour thing. There's a handful of employees that are that way. There's some inconsistency across all of our employees, the county employees. So I'd like to look at that all at one time, and we talked about that, and I'm still there.
And Phil and I discussed it too, and he said that, his position, what he had for me, but he told me, go ahead and go to you guys, because there is a need, and if we're filling this position, obviously, to begin in January, that means another 5-6 months with it, with my court understaffed, number one, and that's why I'm here and begging y'all to please consider doing it earlier.
And lastly, I hope I'm absolutely mistaken on this. I've sure made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I wouldn't be surprised that if we would grant, these, I see a need, but if we grant these, we're gonna have the office next door coming to us saying, what about us, this is gonna cause more work for the prosecutor, so we need more staff too.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah, I don't see how our increasing in staff actually would affect the prosecutor. We may be more efficient. We may have less mistakes on our end, which is something that, not that anybody ever makes a mistake, but you can't cook in a kitchen, you don't break a plate, but the simple fact is the court does not generate any of its work. It all comes in either from law enforcement with their things that are filed, or it comes from civil people filing civil suits, and we react to these outside forces. The fact that if we have more staff would not infect their caseload is going to stay the same regardless. We might answer our phones better, we might give a better service at the window, we would have less mistakes. Staff that is not under stress and doing their job competently and well, but.
Well, and I agree 100% with you on that. If we come to it, I'll let you tell the prosecutor that.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to talk to Mr. Bison. I don't see how.
I've had this conversation many times in the prosecutor.
But
when Dr. Sobey was here,
yeah.
Dr. Sobey and I went down and had that conversation to the point that we were asked to leave.
Oh, well, okay. Well, sure. Does a criminal matter come into my court that's not filed by either the police or the prosecutor's office?
Oh, that's correct.
Yeah. Our staff would not, if we have an extra staff member, cause more work, correct? The amount of work is the amount of work. It's what's been filed.
Right. You're correct in that you're a reactive agency. You react to what.
Yeah. We and if you want to have a good running court, we need to properly staff it. That's just simple.
I guess for me, for my fellow commissioners, the decision is: do we look at this now, or do we look at this at budget time? And that's where we have to start with this process. And
Mr. Begg, do you have, or Mr. Hardy or Mr. Erickson, do you have anything you want to express or ask?
One quick question, I guess more for you. When those salaries were set up, and this was prior to me being on the board, were they specified as 35 hours?
They, in the pay sheet that is kept up by HR, some of the salary positions are at 35 hours. And that was prior to me coming on
Right.
board as
And that
well,
really had
so.
to do with the magistrate, but I didn't know.
And we have found some concerns in that, is that?
Yeah.
Tracy, would you agree that we found some concerns in that whole schedule, you know, and everything? And that's one of the things that we had said during budget time, that we wanted to look at those concerns. And we want to address those concerns.
Yeah, I didn't know the previous commissioner set that up. So, maybe one question for the judge.
Sure.
So your number one is basically for a full-time court reporter, it would be your number one request?
The number one would be the full-time courtroom clerk that is designated as court reporter, but also fills in. That's the number two in the three.
Okay.
I think that makes the most sense, but I'll love to have the higher paid full-time court reporter too, but I think a person that can handle all aspects, and their job is designated that when they're not reporting, that they're helping and assisting the office in any way possible, would be, to me, the ideal situation.
Very naive question for you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Can a district court reporter record in circuit court also?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, basically under the SEAO guidelines, if you get approved and then eventually you get pre-approved and then eventually you have to pass a test and then you're certified, but
Didn't we have a hard time finding somebody for circuit court to be a full-time reporter?
That was prior to me coming here, but I do believe they did, and that's why they ended up contracting for the position.
Yes.
Correct, she's a transcriptionist, certified. So there's the three different levels. You're talking about an operator, a reporter, and then transcriptionist.
Okay.
The one they have right now is a transcriptionist because operators have to be specific to courts and employed full-time. Reporters are difficult to find unless you employ them full-time, which is what Judge Meadowbrook has in Mason County. That would be that first option, or possibly that last option that we're talking about. But again, they're retiring, you're just not seeing them around. And at least with option two, we could get ourselves an operator, but they would have to be employed full-time in order to keep up their certification with the court, and you'd be able to use them interchangeably between the courts, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was a question I had. So we can't, I'm glad you said that. We can't have a part-time recorder because of the certification being kept up?
Unless you have them certified as reporters.
Oh, I see.
But in order to be certified as a reporter, they have to get additional certification, which just takes a little bit of additional training.
Good.
It usually pays more.
Gotcha. Mr. Erickson, do you have?
Yeah, and going back to that original conversation that began this, we've had turnover in district court, so that it created many different variables in this. And I do realize the importance of having a recorder available and the lack of which we've gone to the contract recorders. Before we'd had full-time people in here for 20, 30 years that could perform that duty, and now we just don't have those people. So I was in favor of filling this void if we had a specific person that was fitting well right now and not let them get away.
And that's what I have right now with this young lady. If we can snag her, that would be great. She's willing to, forego a year of school because she can't get the classes she wants, and frankly, what she's told Ms. Facundo is, why should I go to school and take filler classes and pay for it because she can get her classes, I guess, if she gets on a waiting list and start next year. Of course, we'll have to replace her next year, but at least it gets us to next, about this time, probably next year.
Could we embrace, fellow commissioners, could we embrace the idea of filling that position now by having the personnel committee work with the county administrator and a judge, and if they get somebody who would accept that position now who is trained to do it? Is that something that's acceptable to the other board members?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Beggs.
I prefer the change of budget time, but I also understand having somebody in hand that's already trained with no spin up time, no, you know, they're already qualified in hand. I could probably be a yes on that.
Yeah, and at that rate, you're looking at a hit to the budget of about $22,400 to the end of the year.
How's Ms. Cruz get, which position is she holding
She's
right
just
now?
a part-time,
Is it budgeted already in our, it'd be
yes,
budgeted?
I think,
So it'd be
yes.
less.
Well, and is that position budgeted through the end of the year and?
No, just
No.
until the 22nd of this
Okay.
month.
August 22nd.
What do you think, Mr.
Yeah,
Erickson?
well, and, you know, making the district court more efficient was the entire premise of all of this, especially when we get busy. If we're overburdened and we've got vacations and we're not performing as quickly as the need is. But, you know, as we'd said, Phil, when we got into this discussion previously, 40 hours is salary. You know, any salary job I've ever had might be 60 hours a week. And what we've got is a disparaging difference in the different departments within the courthouse where we have people working different hours, and the philosophy of a salaried employee as an elected official gets one salary and might work 80 hours a week, as Amy's done this past week. So that's my rub. Growing up on a farm, you work till the sun goes down if the work is there, and then you go to Florida in the winter. But that's my concern, is that we perform the judge's specific tasks in a timely manner so that he's an efficient judge.
So it sounds like you support Mr. Walker's,
I think we
idea.
do need to explore it further, and if he's got someone that's already there and knows the procedures, you know, finding help nowadays, I mean, you let one get away and you might take 2 months to find someone that doesn't work out, as we've had, what, 3 or 4 in the last year?
Phil, my position is this, that I would like to see the personnel committee administrator work to see with either the magistrate or with the judge to see if this person is interested in coming on, you know, full time. And if that will work out, you know, let you make the decision. The board will allow, you know, give you the authority to make that decision. And I believe that hours have increased, you know, in the magistrates, in the salary. We need to find more information about how that actually happened. And I do believe that that's something that we said before for everybody would be during budget time. And I'd like to see us work through that at budget time.
So the resolution would basically be to have you guys decide at that point and then authorize it. And that would be through the end of the year.
That's where I'm coming from on it.
I understand.
Because I think getting somebody up to speed, obviously, you're gonna spend additional, you know, if it's a new hire, you're gonna spend some additional time on it. And then it gives us an opportunity to take a look at the budget time and see where it goes. So,
and this is something well, we can talk about that then if it gets approved.
sure.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, I really appreciate you guys, thank you so much.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
thank you very much. And I'll get out of your hair.
Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you.
We never feel like that.
All right.
All right.
So I gotta be on the.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
See you guys.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda, if I can find it. Yeah, well, I think it's Jody. I gotta find my agenda here. There we go. Request for a part-time VSO. Come on up, Jody.
Somebody else needing people. Mine's a millage though that just passed, so that's great. So thanks for having
Good
me. You guys
morning.
have the proposal and some numbers in front of you, so I'm more going to take questions. I'll just touch base on, we need a part-time VSO. Our numbers have dramatically increased. We are tracking a lot more money coming into the county and also a lot more veterans. So the numbers you have in front of you reflect more of who we're seeing face-to-face in the office. The state tracking is a little bit higher, so we're pushing probably about 2,000 per quarter that we're tracking. per year, I mean. And then this, with the state, Oceana County's tracking about 24 to 26. So we're pretty demographically the same with Mason County, Lake County, where all those rural counties kind of track about the same. So there's a lot of veterans that probably are not being seen, a lot that don't know about the office, but we're trying to rectify that with doing a lot more public outreach. And we are tracking a lot more veterans with public outreach. So that has been wonderful. The reason that we need a part-time VSO is because I'm the only VSO. I have Danny, who is my administrative assistant, and she's wonderful because she gets to all the things that I can't, and she's very good with numbers. So we do the grant and everything together, but she does a lot of the billing. She helps set up the public outreach. She's kind of the face of the office when veterans walk in. And I'm booking consistently now a year and a half, 5 to 6 weeks out all the time. Even with trying to set aside, we've tried different things without having to go before you to ask for another position, but it's not working. We're 50 to 60 walk-ins a month is what we've been tracking. So we've been doing a lot of tracking, and we have to do that for grant. Danny's position is paid strictly off of grant dollars. Mine is a quarter paid off of grant dollars. So 29 of my hours is paid off of our millage, 11 is through grant. Our grant is maxed out with that right now. We've got an increase this year, which we were not expecting. It's around 66,000 that we are getting from the grant this year because we both had pay raises, which I think are well deserved. They looked at that, and sometimes the grant has extra money. If the rural counties are not using all of their money, it goes back into a fund, can be distributed out. So they increased it to about 67,625, something like that, which was wonderful. We were not expecting that. We will probably not go above that at all. I mean, they were very generous in doing that. So we can't really reach out to grant to ask for this part-time position. We're asking for 20 hours a week, which would free up a lot of time, some time for me to do some more of the department head stuff that I can't get to, but the veteran comes first. So that's where she picks up a lot of slack and is very helpful. But having another VSO would be wonderful. And we cannot do that through, we would have to do it through our millage. And,
Bill.
Yes, Ms. Walker.
Bill. Jody.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the millage. Do we have the funds in the millage to cover the cost of this VSO?
We do.
You made this too easy.
Well, with Tracy's time and patience in the budget, I think I'm really understanding it now. So yeah. That's when the reason I'm bringing it now and not the beginning of the year is because, again, we've been putting this off due to space. We don't have enough space because we only have one office, but I reached out to Curtis. He doesn't use his office very often, so with a part-timer, we would have space until any movement gets done there.
We are working on that.
Yes, and we're very thankful for that. We really appreciate you guys. But right now, we do, if this were to be approved, we do have Curtis's space to move forward with that.
Does anybody have any concerns about this position?
I will say the only reason you don't have more space right now is there are no contractors available.
Yeah.
We find that in our office when we're trying to get a roof or anything done for a veteran, so we understand the process well.
Does anybody have any concerns especially since it would be coming under village?
I have no concerns over this whatsoever.
I'll just say as liaison to the VA board, everything that they've said here has been echoed in the boardroom with their own board, and these two ladies do a marvelous job. Like they said, outreach, they spend a great amount of effort. When they're not actually helping a veteran, they're seeking more veterans to help, and so they do good work.
And I think one thing I'm sorry, were you?
No, go ahead.
One thing that has been expressed here before too is you guys help Oceana County people first, which is great, but you also help others. And we do need to prioritize Oceana County people, but also it's great that we can help other people from other counties. Yeah,
so to fill you in just a little bit more on that, and this is something I've been over with the administrative office, we're asking for 20 hours because to be accredited, there's a lot of training involved in being a VSO and to have federal government access, which I have. Not all VSOs do, but I've taken the time to do that. And It's important to be 20 hours because you cannot keep accreditation without 20 hours. All your certifications go away. The only time that I would see a veteran from another county, so if you look at the tracking that I sent, you may see Lake, Oceana, Mason. It's rare, but if I start a claim with a veteran and they move to a different county, they're already open under me. So we can change the county that they move to, but I first finish what I started with them until a claim is fully adjudicated all the way through where we're helping them with emergent need or something. That's why you would see that. Or it's a phone call that we take and we give them the best, entities that they need to contact. You need to contact your veteran service officer at Muskegon County. So we do refer them out. So if you see that on the tracking, usually that's what it entails.
And the VSO has to be a veteran, correct?
In the state of Michigan, they do not have to be a veteran, but we do prefer that. So
okay.
it varies by state.
I thought when we first established this that we were told that it had to be. That's my mistake.
That, you might be right, and I could be wrong, but as far as I know, the director of Newaygo County is not it's a sore subject for me, because I'm a veteran, but, and so I agree with you, Bob, but there are plenty of VSOs in the state that are not veterans.
Anybody else?
This is, as I said, this is easy.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say congratulations on the notes.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Linkard. Appreciate it. So I said that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we have you guys running our veteran office.
She grew up every summer here. I grew up in Oceana County, so it means a lot to me, and I don't want our veterans waiting 5 and 6 weeks to get in to see me.
Well, I do want to say that the Veterans Office has taken some major steps forward with trying to understand the budget and how that process works and working through that with me. So
it's been really messed up for a while.
They're doing a very, very good job.
That's awesome.
Well, that also reflects on the millage, the way it was approved. The public recognizes how well the Veterans Office does for the veterans.
Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. That's wonderful.
Yes, they do.
And just, I would like to say, when we're talking about new positions, and we just had a conversation prior, we've had other asks. The reason that this is so easy for me is the fact that the money's there. It's not new money. It's already there. So, I mean, it would be considered even if it wasn't, but that makes it easy. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm gonna stick around if any questions arise.
All right, department head report. All right, time for public comments. All right, being none, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee, and may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Morse?
Here.
Mr. Biggs?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here. I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from July 25th.
I'll make that motion, Morse.
Motion by Morris, supported by
Support.
Mr. Beggs. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Disapproved, same. Motion carried. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
All right.
Support.
Mr. Morris and Mr. Walker, second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration Committee? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Dr. Williams, Community Mental Health Annual Report.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us.
Nice to see you all today. I'm going to go ahead and hand these, give you a handful this way.
All right.
And a handful this way. Give me. There it is. Well, it's been fun. I get to be in Oceana County 2 times this week, back-to-back days. I get to meet with the sheriff and Mr. Walker and Tracy again. So really appreciated the opportunity to be here today. Wanted to walk through the annual report for the fiscal year that ended in September of last year. But before I did that, I wanted to give credit to a member of our team, Lori Schumer. She's our Director for Public Relations and Customer Services, and she creates this report on behalf of the organization each year, and she's really been evolving that for us over the past several years. So we're very proud of this report, and I'm very proud of the work that she's done. Also wanted to let you know that the printer for this is a printer out of Oceana County, so we're also making sure that we're, since we are an agency that serves 3 counties, we're making sure that that we utilize the resources available in all 3 of our counties. So anyway, thank you. And I'm basically just want to walk through a little bit of the information here. I'm not going to read it to you because I hate when people do that for me. But I wanted to also make myself available for questions. So the theme of the report is breaking barriers and building bridges. And this really, I think, covers a variety of different fundamental pieces of who we are as an organization and what we've accomplished the past year. This first and foremost and always is about the people that we serve and their work in building bridges and breaking their own barriers down to go on their recovery journey. So that's key and fundamental to who we are as an organization. It also recognizes the work of the organization as they break down challenges that they encounter to do the work that we do. You know, various rules and regulations and compliance, as you all know, is becoming, you know, everything is very compliance oriented right now. And so being able to do the work to be both compliant with state and federal law and all of that, but figuring out how to do that in a way that still gets us the biggest bang for our buck in terms of services to our community it's a big lift, and they do a great job. We've increased our access to services by 6% from the previous year, and that's including with a staff vacancy rate of 9%. So we're definitely figuring out how to do it, but it would sure be great to have those staffing vacancies filled. So in terms of, as you flip through, you're going to see a bunch of examples of building bridges and breaking barriers throughout the report. You can see our mission, vision, values is in there, an overview of our financial picture, really expanded community coordination kinds of efforts with the crisis intervention training with law enforcement in our 3 counties, and really enhanced partnerships with our law enforcement have grown out of that. I know we do a ton of work with Sheriff Mast. We have staff in the jails in all 3 counties that are really aimed at making sure that the folks in the jails have the needed and necessary mental health and substance use treatment that they that will meet their needs, but also that when folks leave those settings, they find their way into treatment so that we can reduce recidivism in the jails, but also help people be healthier overall. So we've also done a lot more work with primary care over the past year and school coordination activities. So crisis services have increased access for about 35% over last year, which means that people are aware of and using our crisis services. Certainly we prefer folks come in before they're in crisis, but sometimes that's the way folks find their way, and that's okay, and we're here for that. We've also done some partnership with community employers and really tried to stretch the boundaries with those organizations and different kinds of employers about access to care for their employees. So that's been a big thing. Lots of training, culture building, organizational work with organizations like, for example, we were just at Peterson Farms last week doing as part of a health fair, talking about our services, had the opportunity to meet with over 100 employees there and share information about what it is we offer. Trying to think, other big things, you can see, towards the end, there's a word cloud. You can kind of see it. We've spent a lot of time organizationally on culture in the past year. We really believe that employees who are engaged and find their work meaningful and are taking care of themselves and taking care of each other mean that they're doing better work also for our clients. And so we spent a lot of time post-pandemic, honestly, trying to reconnect folks in our hybrid work environment, reconnect folks with each other and build that sense of team. And the words in that word cloud are the words that team members use to describe each other. So to me, that's a really strong statement about the value people have for their teammates and the contributions that they make to our organization and to our communities overall. Towards the back, you'll also see we have about 181 team members at the end of last year. We're edging up on 188 now, which means some of that vacancy rate is going down in terms of some of our positions, fingers crossed. We have 7 veterans on our team now, 33 new hires, and the majority of those new hires were recommended to us by employees that are within the organization right now. So again, we feel like that's a recognition that our employees are feeling the impact of the culture work we're doing, and that that's contributing to their work satisfaction and their work within our consumers. So that's pretty important. In Oceana County, the board members you guys have appointed are Jim Prince, Larry Van Sickle, Kay Sen, Lucinda Schaefer, and Mr. Walker. And so we want to thank you for that. The folks that you have put on our board are making great contributions to the board. Mr. Prince stepped down as chair this year, but Mr. Van Sickle became the new chair for the board, and he's doing a great job with big shoes to fill and providing really good leadership to the board. And we're really grateful for him. He's just a great member. So, and we're getting to know Mr. Walker and finding great ways for us to partner together, and we're really appreciative of that and the work your appointees do for us. So, there's a lot of other information in there. Like I said, I'm not going to walk you through it, but I would really love to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Walker.
Okay. First off, I want to tell my fellow board members that Oceana County is represented very, very well on West Michigan Community Mental Health. We have just a wide spectrum of backgrounds of the people that represent Oceana County. And the meetings are enjoyable meetings to go to. I'm like Craig, I don't like to go to any more than I have to, but they're well organized and they're well done. And one of the things in my short tenure on the Community Mental Health Board is that I appreciate a lot is the interaction that community mental health management has with their employees. It's a one-to-one all the time. You know, Josh Snyder is an amazing man that does that. Dr. Hovey, you know, Sheriff Mass and I saw yesterday again how Dr. Hovey works with people, and it's greatly appreciated. But the relationship with the employees, you know, is just a very nice organization. And when the organization has that relationship internally, you know the service is going to be provided for the clients.
Anyone else? Questions?
Is there any more talk about, I don't think there is, but you know, we talked about like 2 years ago, Senator Shirkey had that, you know, mental health new, you know.
The 597, 598 legislative bills that were intended to carve in, take behavioral health and make it part of the Medicaid health plan system. That is always on the table. The health plans, to be honest, have been a little quiet this past year because they've been in the middle of a rebid. So the state every so many years is required to do a request for proposals, and those plans have to submit their proposal to go forward with, providing the managed care for the communities in Michigan. So honestly, they've been a little occupied over the past year with doing that. I would anticipate in October, when their new contracts start and they get their legs under them, that it will be back, probably not with Senator Shirkey's name on it,
Yeah,
because obviously he's retired, but I think there are quite a few folks in the legislature who will pick up that mantle. And I'll probably come back to you and have another conversation about what are we gonna do this time. But I can say that even if that is the case, we've had some really, and I'll tell you more about this next year when I give you this year's annual report, but there've been we've made some really great partnerships with some of those plans in the past couple of years. And so when they're not trying to eat us up, we're figuring out how to work together with them to make sure that our clients are getting integrated care, that their physical health needs are being addressed, that their mental health needs are being addressed, and that we're working together to make sure we're not doing things to counteract either one of those kinds of things. So I would, it's always on the table. It will be back on the table, I'm certain, probably in January. I don't think much is going to happen in lame duck this year, just because of the elections and the legislative turnover and all of those kinds of things. But probably in January, we'll start to see some of that activity again.
Thank you. And what's your fiscal year?
Our fiscal year is October to September 30th. October 1 to September 30th. Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yeah. Administrator Biard, Administrator's review of selected plans for family and Administrator's report.
So the claims have been provided for you, and you'll see some large amounts in there for ambulance in the Shelby Township Community Park that have been paid out, but
Over 600,000 this month.
yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder we hit that 7 figures.
Does anybody have any other questions for that?
I have one quick question on the MFR payments. And that's the second quarter, but, and this might be a question for somebody else, but are those priority 1, 2, and 3, or is that by department?
Right now, that is by department, but there has been a discussion as long as we have done the reimbursing, and I think we need to take a look now, because there's some pretty substantial bills that came in, and see where we are financially, because the discussion previous boards was that if we run into, and we have a lot more MFRs now with Hart and Shelby, and but we may have to look at those priority 3s. We may have to look at
Yeah, because I noticed that. I mean, those payments are up over $30,000 for this second thing, and that's why I wondered if we're apples to apples here, or if you have some departments that are doing priority 3s.
So I know Hart is only running priority 1s.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I believe, are running all 3.
I don't know the staffing, and I think some of them are basing that on staffing.
Okay.
You know, when our previous emergency manager used to look at all of those reports and used to validate all those bills and validate all of those bills before we paid them. So there was a little bit of control there, and he could tell us how many there were of each one.
And that's all. I just wondered, because that seemed to be a high number. I know that, the summer months elevate that a little bit, but
and I have the concern, Mr. Hardy, that I had before. I wouldn't want to see us come into November and December and find out that that money that was budgeted is all gone.
Right. That was my concern.
I know we looked at it last month, maybe.
But that was before the big one.
Yeah, we were quite a ways under 50% of that budget. I don't know that we were 40%, we were under 50%, which with these second quarter bills, that may have changed, but.
I agree with you, Mr. Hardy, it's something that we have to keep an eye on.
Just keep an eye on it, yeah.
I'll pull those invoices, and then, we can take a look at those
Okay.
invoices too.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, not a problem.
Well, we also have Hesperia on there now that we didn't have before.
Right.
too.
I will pull those. And then the only other thing I did wanna say that, I thought that the opioid meeting that we had yesterday was, very productive, and we're headed in the right direction with that, so, I think we're doing some good things with that. And then,
So,
Oh,
if I may?
Yeah.
So when we take the next step and we set up a panel on who's gonna do that, you know, who's gonna be on it, if one of the other members of the Board of Commissioners wanna be on that panel other than myself, please volunteer and I'll step aside so you can go to a couple more meetings a month to do.
Don't all raise your hands at once.
well, and the thing is that, Lisa and I were talking about that after the meeting, and she said, do you think any of the board members are gonna wanna be involved in that steering committee? And I said, I don't know, I can't see that happening, but, I said, I could be surprised, I said, because there's only 5 of them and they have quite a bit on their plate right now.
I do think it's important that somebody on the board be on that, and if the board will make the decision who the steering committee is. But if somebody else wants to be on it, that's fine, otherwise if the board so desires, I'll stay on it.
Okay, and then I had a little bit in there about the ARPA funds and obligations that they're requiring. I haven't had a chance to go through all of that information. Craig and I were talking about that, before the meeting started, and, whether those obligations are going to be required of us because we receive less than $10 million. So, I still need to continue going through all of that documentation to get, a better answer for that, but I am working through that, so.
And my understanding was that when Dr. Sobey filed that, less than 10 million, that would go into the general fund, but some of the, in their typical governmental regulation fashion, is a little confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll work together on that and see where it's at, because some of it stipulates that it has to be spent before December 31st of this year. But I think we're exempt from that, the way I remember when Dr. Sobey was here, that was filed, so anyway.
So, currently there is, 315,000 left in that fund, and that's an adjustment since, there's a position that is in that, Excel spreadsheet that has not been filled. So I've been putting that money back into the balance, as long as they don't fill that position, because we haven't spent the money on that, so, that's where we are with the funds at this point, so. Anybody have any questions?
I would like to say on the administrator's report, we have the request for proposals on the scale, and those are going to go out this week to the contractors in Oceana County that we have, and it's also going to Jake at American Classic, who is the president or vice president.
He's the owner of the company.
He's the owner of the company. He wants to handle that himself, and that's a good thing for us. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
So those are going out. If anybody knows of any contractors that they want that to go out to, please let Tracy know. You know, I can, the major excavation companies in Oceana County are all getting it. But there may be somebody else that you know that, because most of us set their own scales up. They know how to do it.
Right. Anybody, any questions? Any answers? Sorry. Department head reports at this time. Sure. Right. Moving on, any public comment for Finance and Administration Committee at this time? guess Gary's not here, so.
Oh, I think he's on vacation right now.
Oh. All right, hearing none, we will adjourn the Finance and Administration Committee and take a short break until we can start the regular board meeting.